Good Saturday evening, ladies and gents. What is up? What is good? We are here tonight to recap the Democratic National Convention. And I gotta say, right off the bat, when you look at the Democratic National Convention, you compare it to what we saw from the Republican National Convention, there's really no comparison. I mean, there's no comparison. The energy, the tone, the ratings, I mean, shit. The DNC was an actual party. The Republican National Convention, I don't know what the fuck that was. It just felt stale. Felt old. I was bored. I'm not going to lie. I was bored. And I watched both conventions. I was just bored with the RNC. With the DNC, not so much. Not so much. I do think they went a little late most nights. That's true. But in terms of the tone, it was just much more fun to watch. I mean, for the love of God, they had Little John show up during the delegate count. Turn up for what? It's like, what? Although I will say, like, that Beyonce tease was a bit of a dick move. Beyonce, I think Beyonce was actually at the I think Beyonce was actually at the DNC. I think she was there, but she didn't perform. Like, that's kind of a dick tease. Let's be real. That's kind of a dick tease. Both parties suck. To some degree, yes. The Democrats are looking better right now than the Republicans because the Republicans all worship at the altar of Donald John Trump. I'm sorry, Donald Janice Trump, I should say. And it's creepy. There's a very cult mentality there. See, that's the thing about the Democrats. Like, you can't really call them a cult at this point, at least when it comes to their nominee, because their nominee stepped aside. Their nominee stepped down. And we got Kamala instead. So, I'm just saying. Like, Trump gets up there, Trump says whatever crazy shit Trump says, and they just go along with it. And that's it. I mean, it's like, here's the thing. Coming from somebody that used to be like a really big Republican, like actually involved in Republican politics, if you're a Republican and not just a Trumper, you probably want the Republicans to lose this time around in order to be like a wake-up call, in order to say, hey, listen, this guy's crazy. This guy's not the future. We need to change. So if you're a Republican with any sort of sense, you would want the Republicans to lose this time as a wake-up call. And to be fair, that is happening because you have some Republicans voting for Kamala for that very reason. Kamala's cope. I don't know where the cope is coming from. Like, I've seen the lines. All right. I've seen the lines. I've seen the crowd sizes. I mean, I've not seen anything like this since 2008. And I've been paying attention to politics for a while now. I've not seen anything like this since Obama. I don't know where the cope comes in. Now, is it going to be a close election? Yes, it's going to be a close election. But if I was to put money down on it right now, honest to God, my money's on Kamala. Like, there was a poll that came out. Let's see if I can find it. There was a poll that came out that showed Kamala had narrowed the gap. Yeah, right here, a couple of days ago. The survey from the University of Houston and Texas Southern University found Trump with support from 49.5% of likely voters in Texas, holding a lead of less than 5 points over Harris's 44.6%. Excuse me. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy, who has dropped out of the race, by the way, had 2% of likely voters. But Harris's support also jumped 4.3% from where President Biden was polling in June. So in just a month, in the time from when Biden dropped out, Kamala Harris has gained almost 4.5 percentage points in Texas. Now, this is going to be an election that comes down to 5% or less of the vote. Now, she's not going to win Texas. Let's just be very clear about that. She's not going to win Texas. But if she comes close, if she loses by only a few percentage points, a couple of percentage points, that's a big deal. Because if she's making up ground in blood red Texas, of all places, what is she doing in the swing states? I mean, really think about that. If she's making up ground in deep red Texas, then she must be doing some crazy shit in the swing states. So, and again, we still have 70-something days until the election. So things can change. But if the trajectory continues as it is, she is the odds-on favorite to win. That's what the data shows. It is what it is. And look at this, man. Look at the youth vote. 55% of Generation Z voters stating they will support Harris compared to the 39% who backed Biden. She has gained 16 percentage points among Gen Z voters. And remember, since 2020, more Gen Z voters, more of Generation Z has become eligible to vote. And more of the boomer generation, which traditionally goes Republican, have passed away. So the math is adding up in her favor. It's still going to be a close election, but the math is adding up in her favor. I don't know what else to tell you. You think Harris would be better than now? Do I think that Harris would be better than Trump? Yes. I think, listen, I think that Donald Trump is only interested in what is good for Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is a very spiteful, vengeful person. And to give somebody like that power really scares me. I mean, it really does concern me. How, I don't get it. How would Trump be better? How? Trump is old school. Trump is old school. I mean, I don't get it. Like, why does everybody want to always go back to the fucking past? What does Trump... Let me ask you guys something straight up. What is the Republican plan for the future? What is the Republican health care plan? Oh, hold up. You know what? I just remembered something. Donald Trump said that he was going to announce his healthcare plan in 2 weeks. I don't mean that 2 weeks from today. He said that back in 2020. It's been 4 years. Where's his healthcare plan? The Republicans, I want you to think about this. The Republicans spent 8 fucking years campaigning on overturning Obamacare and said, repeal and replace. Replace with what? They finally get control of the House of Representatives. They finally get control of the Senate. They finally get control of the presidency after the Obama administration. And they don't have a fucking healthcare plan. All they cared about was repealing what Obama did. They had nothing to replace it. And John McCain gets up there and says, no, you're not going to do this. You're going to hurt people. No. Remember the famous thumbs down moment. So they have no plan on healthcare. They're not talking about what they're going to do on education. They have no plan when it comes to housing. Nothing. The only thing they can talk about is build the fucking wall and cut taxes for corporations. And that's it. They are not a party that is defined by what they want to do. They are defined by being in opposition to the Democrats. They're only against stuff. They're not for anything. So somebody please tell me, what is their plan for the future? What is their plan to actually solve this shit? And I'm not concerned about business. I don't give a shit about businesses. What about the people? The majority of Americans are not fucking business owners. The majority of Americans are not CEOs. I don't give a shit. They have nothing. At least with Kamala in there, we might actually get something done on these issues. We might actually get brought into the modern era. We might actually get caught up with every other fucking developed country in the world that had this shit figured out in the fucking 70s and 80s. And in some cases, some countries had this shit figured out 100 fucking years ago. Well, see, failure, that's the difference. Who's putting more money in my pocket is my only concern. Well, that's not my only concern, because I realize that I live in a country of 350 million Americans, and we all have to live in this country together. And I care about my fucking neighbor. You know what? This may surprise all of you, but let me make it clear. Money is not the end-all be-all in this world, or at least it shouldn't be. Is that all we're here to do? Is that the only reason God put us on earth, was to make fucking money and then die? In that case, fuck the planet. Fuck the human race. It's meaningless and it's pointless. And we shouldn't do anything. I mean, it's just like, if all life is about money, then life is fucking worthless, and we should all be nihilists. Because I'm sorry, but that's not a good enough reason to live. Has she done any of that as the VP? What the fuck do you think she's supposed to do as the vice president? Do you know? Let me ask you something. Do you know what the job of the vice president is according to the Constitution of the United States? The only duty that the vice president has to fulfill as president in his or her office, according to the Constitution, the only duty they're required to fulfill is to be the tie-breaking vote if the Senate is stuck in a tie. That's it. That's all the Constitution requires. Outside of that, the role of the VP is to mostly be an advocate and a public speaker for the policies of the administration. Now, here's the thing. Kamala Harris is clearly further to the left than Joe Biden on a myriad of issues, obviously. But as his vice president, it really wouldn't make a lot of sense to step on his toes. So people want to say, has she done any of that as the vice president? She's not the president. It's not like she's second in command. That's not what the vice president is there for. That's not how this country works. All right. So let's go back, because I do want to look at a couple of speeches. See, which one do I want to look at first? You know, since we're talking about causes and stuff, let me just go ahead and pull up this one first. Here we go. So this is people talking about why they're voting Democrat. Here we go.
I'm Amy Resner. I was a colleague in the courtroom when my friend Kamala tried one of her first cases and made the prosecutor's promise for the people. For Kamala, practicing law was always about protecting the vulnerable and giving the victims a voice. Women who were sexually assaulted, children who were mistreated and sexually abused, she helped them navigate their nightmares and demand justice for their injuries. And she did it all with grit and grace, intelligence and heart. She was a remarkable prosecutor, and she will be a remarkable president.
Survivors of sexual assault struggle to be heard over the cacophony of voices demeaning, discrediting, and vilifying them. When powerful offenders are allowed to manipulate public opinion by attacking their victims' credibility, all victims suffer. Those words are from the 2021 amicus brief filed by RAINN, the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization, in the case of E. Jean Carroll versus Donald J. Trump. As a legislator and lifelong advocate against sexual violence, I urge all of us to stand together to support survivors, believe them, and hold perpetrators accountable.
I'm Lisa Madigan, former Attorney General of Illinois. I worked with Kamala Harris during the Great Recession to protect homeowners from foreclosure. As Attorney General of California, Kamala met thousands of people on the verge of losing their homes and their faith in the American dream. She demanded big banks provide mortgage relief to allow families to stay in their homes. She stood her ground, and together, we prevailed. For as long as I have known her, Kamala Harris has always taken principled positions and never wavered. Thanks to Kamala's determination, countless Americans have a home they can call their own.
And I'm Mark Morial, civil rights leader and former mayor of New Orleans. In the 1970s, Donald Trump was sued for refusing to rent his apartments to African Americans. His employees were told, put those applications in a drawer and leave them there. It was straight up housing discrimination. It was racism, and civil rights advocacy put an end to it. Kamala Harris has a plan to build more housing, keep rent prices fair, and help more people own homes. Donald Trump, you denied black people the American dream, and Kamala Harris is creating a future where every family, yes, every family, has a place to call home.
I'm Nathan Horns. In 2010, I went to college in California to pursue my dreams, but ended up with a nightmare. Corinthian Colleges was a predatory for-profit chain. They defrauded more than 500,000 students and burdened us with loans we could never repay. Then, Kamala Harris stepped in. As Attorney General of California, she stuck up for students. She prosecuted Corinthian, and as Vice President, she stuck with us. As we fought and we organized for debt relief, the Biden-Harris administration came in, canceled all Corinthian student debt, and gave us back our futures.
My name is Tristan Snell, and I prosecuted Trump University. I interviewed over 100 victims of Trump's fraud, a retired police sergeant, an Iraq veteran with PTSD, a mother caring for her son with special needs. They trusted Trump. They believed that he would teach them his secrets and make their American dreams come true. But all they got was credit card debt and a fake diploma. Some lost their life savings, some lost their homes. Donald Trump ripped off his biggest fans and made $5 million in profit. Kamala Harris fought scammers like him, and as president, she will continue to fight for you, for us, for the people.
So, all right. So I see a lot of people talking about the Libertarian Party. Guys, let me ask you something. Name me one successful libertarian country on earth. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It never works. Libertarianism is just a bunch of LARPing fanboys that are pretending that they're a bunch of anarchists. It doesn't work. It never has worked. And let me explain something to you. Let me explain something to you. Who elected one? Who elected a libertarian? The rock star? Who? Who are you guys talking about? I'm not saying that a libertarian politician can't get elected. I'm talking about a libertarian form of government, a libertarian nation. Obviously, there's been libertarians that have been elected. Ron and Rand Paul, for example, have been elected as politicians. But I'm talking about a successful libertarian country. It doesn't exist, guys. It falls apart. It's not stable. It's not sustainable. And to be fair, let me be 100% fair and honest with this. Libertarianism is the right-wing version of communism in the sense that neither one has ever worked. You feel me? I mean, seriously, neither one has ever worked. Libertarian, I mean, come on. Libertarianism is just as ridiculous as communism. And before anybody says it, no, what I'm advocating for when I talk about the Democrats is not fucking communism. It's called social democracy. It's what most fucking developed countries live under. Look at the Nordic countries. That's social democracy. They still have your sacred cow of capitalism. But when it comes to certain things, like healthcare, like education, like housing, for example, there's a recognition that these are not wants and desires. These are basic needs. I mean, think about how crazy this is. If universal healthcare is really socialism or communism, then why the fuck are we allies with every single country or the majority of developed countries that have that type of healthcare system? Are you saying we're all allied with a bunch of communists and socialists? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if y'all want to vote libertarian, go for it, but you're wasting your fucking vote. The Libertarian Party will never hold power, ever. They're a bunch of losers and bums. Let me see if I can find. That wasn't really the clip I was looking for. The clip I'm looking for had people talking about different issues. God bless it. I don't see it on here though. That sucks. Damn it. Yeah, I don't see it on here. I don't see it on here. Damn it. I was really hoping to find that clip. They're never going to get their act together. Guys, think about what libertarianism is. Libertarianism, at its core, is decentralization. Now, if they believe in decentralization, how are they ever supposed to have any kind of political party structure? I don't know why this is so complicated. It goes against their very nature. They can't be structured because they're decentralized. You can't have structure without some form of centralization. And so because of that, because they're so decentralized, they are never going to be able to create a united front, which is what you have to have any sort of political power. So the Libertarian Party is just an effort. If you're a libertarian and you go out and you volunteer for libertarian candidates and vote for libertarian candidates, every single time you are just going through an act of political futility. I mean, even when I was a diehard Republican, I thought the fucking libertarians were just silly as fuck. If a third party did get their act together, they just get bought by one of the big two, if not both. Look, it's not like I've never had an interest in any kind of third party, but it's not libertarianism. For one reason, I just don't believe in libertarian ideas. I've never been a libertarian. I've been a conservative, but I've never been a libertarian. Because it just does not work. It makes no fucking sense on a large scale. It doesn't work. It's like communism. Communism doesn't work. Libertarianism does not work. They're both two extremes of the political spectrum. You have to meet in the middle and find balance. I'll just be straight up honest with you. Listen. Social Darwinism will prove whose beliefs are right instead of forcing everyone into one worldview. Okay, let me ask you something, failure. If the majority of the country, let's say this election, all right, because they're talking about this being on the level of Obama. I'm not willing to go that far yet, but this is the most support I've seen for a Democratic candidate since Obama. Like this is fucking wild. I don't think it's Obama levels yet, but it's impressive. So let's just say election night comes, all right? Let's say election night comes. And she gets voted in there. She has a clear mandate. Who are you to argue with the people? I want to show you something. I want to show you something real quick. This is coming. This is coming from the Healthcare and Public. Fuck. What's the name of it? the National Healthcare Organization. All right. I want you to look at this. Which would you prefer? The current health insurance system in the U.S., in which most people get their health insurance from private employers, but some have no insurance, or a universal health insurance program in which everyone is covered under a system like Medicare that's run by the government and financed by taxpayers? 62% respond with universal coverage. I mean, fuck, man. I mean, come on. Like, if that's what the people want, is this not a democracy? What are we doing? I guess that's why the majority of developed countries have a universal healthcare system. So they're all jokes, right? The only one that isn't a joke is America, right? Do you know how stupid that sounds? I mean, come on. Manufactured support. Oh, oh, it's all rigged. Oh, no. Like, come on now. I mean, this is just fucking ridiculous. Failure. You'll get to reap the benefits of it as well. Have you ever been to the hospital, failure? Have you ever seen a hospital bill? Why do you want to go bankrupt just to get the health care you need? All I'm asking is for people to give a damn about their fellow man. Do you think you're always going to be healthy? Do you think you're never going to have to go to the hospital? That's fucking delusional. That's insane. Jesus Christ. I mean, I can't fucking stand it. This mentality of it's all about me, fuck everybody else. Well, in that case, The entire world should look at you and say, no, fuck you. The fuck does Netflix have to do with this? I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. Like, listen, if you don't want to be a part of society, go live in the fucking mountains by yourself. Don't come to our restaurants. Don't go to our stores. Don't participate in society. But if you're going to be a part of society, guess what? You are going to give a damn about every member in that society. And if you don't get to participate. It's called being a good fucking citizen. It's called your civic fucking duty. It's something we used to understand in this country, but apparently we fucking forgot. Oh, it's just fucking disgusting, man. You're right here, Pew Research Center. A majority of Americans continue to say the federal government has a responsibility to make sure all Americans have health coverage. And since last year, that has been an increase, especially among Democrats, and saying, in the share saying that health insurance should be provided by a single national program run by the government. Among the public overall, 63% of U.S. adults say the government has a responsibility to provide health coverage for all, up slightly from 59% last year. I'm telling you, man, you're on the wrong side of history. Why do you want to be on the wrong side of history for? Majority in the U.S. still say government should insure health care. I mean, it's just, I don't get it. Failure. This is what you fail to understand. All right. We pay twice as much for healthcare in this country, and we get worse results than every other developed nation on earth. Do you know why that's the case? Because the reason that we spend twice as much is because we're having to deal with private insurance companies. There are entire floors of hospitals dedicated to dealing with insurance companies instead of doing what they're there to do, which is to get sick people in better health. And yes, it is, listen, it is true. If we adopted a single payer healthcare system in the first 10 years, it would cost quite a bit of money. But after the first 10 years and going forward throughout the lifespan of that program, we would save $450 billion every single year. Why? Because we're not having to deal with the fucking private insurance companies. Right. The government fucks up everything, except you still use the government roads that the government paves. You still want to use that shit. I'm sure. I bet you probably went to a fucking public school. It's like, dude, come on. This is ridiculous. Is the government perfect? No. Does the government need reform? Yes. But to say that the government fucks up everything is fucking ridiculous. I mean, you know what? I'm done. Because I used to have this mentality. I get it. And failure, I don't know how old you are, but I get it. Because for a long time, especially when I was younger, I I ate the red meat. I bought all of this stuff. And then I started doing my fucking research, and I found out a lot of these arguments were bullshit. I found out Reaganomics was the worst thing to ever happen from a financial standpoint to my generation. And I was like, I just can't go along with this anymore. It would be intellectually dishonest. So, I don't know. Maybe you'll realize that one day. Listen. I think when it's all said and done, when we finally do get a single payer healthcare system, when we finally do get tuition free college, and not only you, but your children are reaping the benefits of it, you don't have to say thank you. You don't have to thank us. We just hope that, like everybody else, you enjoy it. All right. So let's get back to some speeches. So, oh yeah, I was going to bring this up too. So there is a third party. Fuck, I almost forgot its name. Fuck, I forgot its name. So there was a third party I was interested in for a while, but yeah, there we go. What's the Constitution Party? No, that wasn't it. What the fuck? Where was it? There it is. Yeah, the American Solidarity Party. Like, this one actually had me interested. Like right here, the American Solidarity Party has been categorized as socially conservative while supporting government intervention in economic matters. It encourages social development along the lines of subsidiarity and sphere sovereignty, with a stated emphasis on strong families, local communities, and voluntary association. It favors physically progressive policies and a social market economy with a distributist character that seeks widespread economic participation and ownership, and providing a social safety network program. So basically, they're socially conservative, but they're economically liberal. This party did have me interested for a while. Yeah, they're based on Catholic social teachings, which again, when it comes to economic policies, like the Catholic Church fucking supports, and the Catholic Church is socially conservative, but they support things like single payer health care, the government getting involved in housing, actually ending fucking poverty. But yeah, like right here, the economic issues. The American Solidarity Party supports a universal healthcare system, as well as an economy containing widespread distribution of productive property, in particular, increased worker ownership and management of their production. In other words, your company, your corporation becomes more like a co-op. So this one had me interested, but again, they have no power. You're going to be trusting the government when you're retired and you have to go on Medicare. You'll be trusting it for Social Security. All right, so let's actually look at some more speeches. I wish I could find that one video that had that group of people, but I don't see it on here. Fuck. Yeah, that's annoying. The Biden speech was good, but I don't want to go over it because one, it's too long. But you know, obviously Joe had his big moment, and if he hadn't stepped out of the race, Democrats were going to lose for sure. Oh, Oprah Winfrey. Yeah, let's watch the Oprah speech. Here we go.
Oprah Winfrey.
Good evening, everybody! Who says you can't go home again? After watching the Obamas last night, that was some epic fire, wasn't it? Some epic fire. We're now so fired up, we can't wait to leave here and do something. And what we're going to do is elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States. I am so honored to have been asked to speak on tonight's theme about what matters most to me, to you, and all of us Americans: freedom. There are people who want you to see our country as a nation of us against them, people who want to scare you, who want to rule you, people who have you believe that books are dangerous and assault rifles are safe, that there's a right way to worship and a wrong way to love, people who seek first to divide and then to conquer. But here's the thing: when we stand together, it is impossible to conquer us. In the words of an extraordinary American, the late Congressman John Lewis, he said, "No matter what ship our ancestors arrived on, we are all in the same boat now." Congressman Lewis knew very well how far this country has come because he was one of the brilliant Americans who helped to get us where we are. But he also knew that the work is not done. The work will never be done because freedom isn't free. America is an ongoing project. It requires commitment. It requires being open to the hard work and the heart work of democracy. And every now and then, it requires standing up to life's bullies. I know this. I've lived in Mississippi, in Tennessee, in Wisconsin, Maryland, Indiana, Florida, Hawaii, Colorado, California, and sweet home Chicago, Illinois. I have actually traveled this country from the redwood forest, love those redwoods, to the Gulf Stream waters. I've seen racism and sexism and income inequality and division. I've not only seen it, at times I've been on the receiving end of it. But more often than not, what I've witnessed and experienced are human beings, both conservative and liberal, who may not agree with each other, but who'd still help you in a heartbeat if you were in trouble. These are the people who make me proud to say that I am an American. They are the best of America. And despite what some would have you think, we are not so different from our neighbors. When a house is on fire, we don't ask about the homeowner's race or religion. We don't wonder who their partner is or how they voted. No. We just try to do the best we can to save them. And if the place happens to belong to a childless cat lady...
Hold up. Failure. Do you even know Oprah Winfrey's backstory? Do you know what she... Like, do you think that she just all of a sudden... do you think she was born rich? Born wealthy? She grew up in poverty. I think she knows what racism and sexism are like. It doesn't matter. If you experience racism and sexism even once in your life, that is one times too many. Her story, what the fuck does that even mean? Her story is her story. You act like just because it happened in the past, it doesn't fucking matter. No, see, failure, this is what you don't fucking understand. Emotions matter. Thoughts matter. Feelings matter. Oh, now you're rich, so everything you went through in life, it doesn't matter anymore. That shit sticks with you. You never get over it. Oh, so you don't care about a billionaire's life experiences, but you'll defend their wealth, you'll defend their money from the evil government all day long, right? You care about their money. I mean, is that all that matters to you is fucking money? Is that all that means anything to you is wealth? I mean, how fucking shallow do you have to be to where that's all that matters? Money solves all problems. Money solves all I mean, that's just I just can't fucking believe anybody can be this fucking shallow. I that's just fucking crazy. Money can solve some of the world's problems, but it doesn't solve racism, it doesn't solve sexism. You have to have policies put into place to where if somebody is caught being racist or sexist, they are punished for it. So if you don't care about billionaires, why do you care about protecting their money? Why does that matter to you so much? See, this is what I don't understand. You'll criticize the rich, but then if we try to go after their money, if we try to tax them even the slightest amount, then you suddenly want to protect them. Do you not think that's hypocritical at all? And let me ask you something. Do you think that these billionaires, do you think that these business owners, these CEOs, do you think that they would step in to protect your ass? Why are you showing them any sort of loyalty? See, I don't get that. I really don't. Oh no, they can't buy a third mansion, but everybody else is going to be able to have some sort of shelter, some sort of housing. But oh no, they can't buy their third mansion. Oh no. It's just ridiculous, man. There has been fucking billionaires who have said that they don't mind paying more in taxes. Look it up, dude. There has been billionaires who have said, yes, we can pay more. Fucking Warren Buffett, for God's sakes. Jesus Christ. All right. Let's get through this.
Well, we try to get that cat out too. Because we are a country of people who work hard for the money. We wish our brothers and sisters well, and we pray for peace. We know all the old tricks and tropes that are designed to distract us from what actually matters, but we are beyond ridiculous tweets and lies and foolery. These are complicated times, people, and they require adult conversation. And I welcome those conversations because civilized debate is vital to democracy, and it is the best of America. Now, over the last couple of nights, we have all seen brave people walk onto the stage and share their most private pain. Amanda and Josh, Caitlin, Hadley, they told us their stories of rape and incest and near-death experiences from having the state deny them the abortion that their doctor explained was medically necessary. And they've told us these things for one reason, and that is to keep what happened to them from happening to anybody else. Because if you do not have autonomy over this, if you cannot control when and how you choose to bring your children into this world and how they are raised and supported, there is no American dream. The women and men who are battling to keep us from going back to a time of desperation and shame and stone cold fear, they are the new freedom fighters. And make no mistake, they are the best of America. I want to talk now about somebody who's not with us tonight. Tessie Prevost Williams was born in New Orleans not long after the Supreme Court ruled that segregated public schools were unconstitutional. That was in 1954, same year I was born. But I didn't have to head to first grade at the all-white McDonough 19 school with a U.S. Marshal by my side like Tessie did. And when I got to school, the building wasn't empty like it was for Tessie. You see, rather than allowing McDonough to be integrated, parents pulled their kids out of the school, leaving only Tessie and two other little black girls, Gail Etienne and Leona Tate, to sit in a classroom with the windows papered over to block snipers from attacking their 6-year-old bodies. Tessie passed away 6 weeks ago, and I tell this story to honor her tonight, because she like Ruby Bridges and her friends, Leona and Gail, the New Orleans Four they were called. They broke barriers, and they paid dearly for it. But it was the grace and guts and courage of women like Tessie Prevost Williams that paved the way for another young girl who 9 years later became part of the second class to integrate the public schools in Berkeley, California. And it seems to me that at school and at home, somebody did a beautiful job of showing this young girl how to challenge the people at the top and empower the people at the bottom. They showed her how to look at the world and see not just what is, but what can be. They instilled in her a passion for justice and freedom and the glorious fighting spirit necessary to pursue that passion. And soon, and very soon, we're going to be teaching our daughters and sons about how this child of an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, two idealistic, energetic immigrants, how this child grew up to become the 47th president of the United States. That is the best of America. You know, let me tell you this. This election isn't about us and them. It's about you and me and what we want our futures to look like. There are choices to be made when we cast our ballot. Now, there's a certain candidate that says if we just go to the polls this one time, that we'll never have to do it again. Well, you know what? You're looking at a registered independent who's proud to vote again and again and again because I'm an American and that's what Americans do. Voting is the best of America. And I have always, since I was eligible to vote, I've always voted my values. And that is what is needed in this election now more than ever. So I'm calling on all you independents and all you undecideds. You know this is true. You know I'm telling you the truth, that values and character matter most of all. In leadership and in life. And more than anything, you know this is true, that decency and respect are on the ballot in 2024. And just plain common sense. Common sense tells you that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz can give us decency and respect. They're the ones that give it to us. So, we are Americans. We are Americans. Let us choose loyalty to the Constitution over loyalty to any individual. Because that's the best of America. And let us choose optimism over cynicism, because that's the best of America. And let us choose inclusion over retribution. Let us choose common sense over nonsense. Because that's the best of America. And let us choose the sweet promise of tomorrow over the bitter return to yesterday. We won't go back. We won't be set back, pushed back, bullied back, kicked back. We're not going back. Not going back. We're not going back. So, let us choose. Let us choose truth. Let us choose honor. And let us choose joy. Because that's the best of America. But more than anything else, let us choose freedom. Why? Because that's the best of America. We're all Americans, and together, let's all choose Kamala Harris. Thank you, Chicago. Thank you.
All right, so that was the Oprah speech. That, I mean, obviously it's Oprah. Of course, she was able to get the crowd hyped. So let's see, who do I want to look up next? Where's the Obama speech? Where's the Obama speech? There it is. All right, so let's check out. Oh, wow, that's kind of long, though. We'll watch a little bit of it. I'll skip around this one.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. That's enough. Thank you. Chicago, it's good to be home. It is good to be home, and I don't know about you, but I'm feeling fired up. I am feeling ready to go. Even if I am the only person stupid enough to speak after Michelle Obama. I am feeling hopeful because this convention has always been pretty good to kids with funny names who believe in a country where anything is possible. Because we have a chance to elect someone who has spent her entire life trying to give people the same chances America gave her. Someone who sees you and hears you and will get up every single day and fight for you. The next president of the United States of America, Kamala Harris. It's been 16 years since I had the honor of accepting this party's nomination for president. And I know that's hard to believe because I have not aged a bit. But it's true. And looking back, I can say without question that my first big decision as your nominee turned out to be one of my best. And that was asking Joe Biden to serve by my side as vice president. Other than some common Irish blood, Joe and I come from different backgrounds, but we became brothers. And as we worked together for 8, sometimes pretty tough years, what I came to admire most about Joe wasn't just his smarts, his experience. It was his empathy and his decency and his hard-earned resilience, his unshakable belief that everyone in this country deserves a fair shot. And over the last 4 years, those are the values America has needed most. At a time when millions of our fellow citizens were sick and dying, we needed a leader with the character to put politics aside and do what was right. At a time when our economy was reeling, we needed a leader with the determination to drive what would become the world's strongest recovery. 15 million.
All right, so we'll skip over this bit because it's mostly just talking about Biden. And, yeah, of course, Biden did something Trump would never do, and that's actually relinquish power. But, it is what it is. So let's skip ahead a little bit. Let's skip ahead to the 10-minute mark.
America's ready for a new chapter. America's ready for a better story. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris is ready for the job. This is a person who has spent her life fighting on behalf of people who need a voice and a champion. As you heard from Michelle, Kamala was not born into privilege. She had to work for what she's got. And she actually cares about what other people are going through. She's not the neighbor running the leaf blower. She's the neighbor rushing over to help when you need a hand. As a prosecutor, Kamala stood up for children who had been victims of sexual abuse. As an attorney general of the most populous state in the country, she fought big banks and for-profit colleges, securing billions of dollars for the people they had scammed. After the home mortgage crisis, she pushed me and my administration hard to make sure homeowners got a fair settlement. Didn't matter that I was a Democrat. Didn't matter that she had knocked on doors for my campaign in Iowa. She was going to fight to get as much relief as possible for the families who deserved it. As vice president, she helped take on the drug companies to cap the cost of insulin, lower the cost of health care, give families with kids a tax cut. And she is running for president with real plans to lower costs even more and protect Medicare and Medicaid.
Dude, where the fuck are you getting this? She was not born into privilege. Her parents were fucking immigrants, dude. You know who was born into privilege? You know who was born with a silver spoon in his fucking mouth? Trump. Trump was born into privilege. Trump has never known a single second of poverty or struggle in his entire fucking life. What the fuck are you talking about?
And sign a law to guarantee every woman's right to make her own health care decisions. In other words, Kamala Harris won't be focused on her problems. She'll be focused on yours. As president, she won't just cater to her own supporters and punish those who refuse to kiss the ring or bend the knee. She'll work on behalf of every American. That's who Kamala is. And in the White House, she will have an outstanding partner in Governor Tim Walz. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. I love this guy. Tim is the kind of person who should be in politics. Born in a small town, served his country, taught kids, coached football, took care of his neighbors. He knows who he is, and he knows what's important. You can tell those flannel shirts he wears don't come from some political consultant. They come from his closet, and they have been through some stuff. They have been through some stuff. That's right. Together, Kamala and Tim have kept faith with America's central story. A story that says we are all created equal. All of us endowed with certain inalienable rights, that everyone deserves a chance, that even when we don't agree with each other, we can find a way to live with each other. That's Kamala's vision. That's Tim's vision. That's the Democratic Party's vision. And our job over the next 11 weeks is to convince as many people as possible to vote for that vision. Now, it won't be easy. The other side knows it's easier to play on people's fears and cynicism, always has been. They will tell you that government is inherently corrupt, that sacrifice and generosity are for suckers. And since the game is rigged, it's okay to take what you want and just look after your own. That's the easy path. We have a different task. Our job is to convince people that democracy can actually deliver. And in doing that, we can't just point to what we've already accomplished. We can't just rely on the ideas of the past. We need to chart a new way forward to meet the challenges of today. And Kamala understands this. She knows, for example, that if we want to make it easier for more young people to buy a home, we need to build more units and clear away some of the outdated laws and regulations that made it harder to build homes for working people in this country. That is a priority, and she's put out a bold new plan to do just that. On health care, we should all be proud of the enormous progress that we've made through the Affordable Care Act. Providing millions of people access to affordable coverage, protecting millions more from unscrupulous insurance practices. And I noticed, by the way, that since it's become popular, they don't call it Obamacare no more. But Kamala knows we can't stop there, which is why she'll keep working to limit out-of-pocket costs. Kamala knows that if we want to help people get ahead, we need to put a college degree within reach of more Americans. But she also knows college shouldn't be the only ticket to the middle class. We need to follow the lead of governors like Tim Walz, who said, if you've got the skills and the drive, you shouldn't need a degree to work for state government. And in this new economy, we need a president who actually cares about the millions of people all across this country who wake up every single day to do the essential, often thankless work, to care for our sick, to clean our streets, to deliver our packages. We need a president who will stand up for their right to bargain for better wages and working conditions. And Kamala will be that president. Yes, she can. Yes, she can. A Harris-Walz administration can help us move past some of the tired old debates that keep stifling progress. Because at their core, Kamala and Tim understand that when everybody gets a fair shot, we are all better off. They understand that when every child gets a good education, the whole economy gets stronger. When women are paid the same as men for doing the same job, all families benefit. They understand that we can secure our borders without tearing kids away from their parents. Just like we can keep our streets safe while also building trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve and eliminating bias, that will make it better for everybody. Donald Trump and his well-heeled donors, they don't see the world that way. For them, one group's gains is necessarily another group's loss. For them, freedom means that the powerful can do pretty much what they please, whether it's fire workers trying to organize a union, or put poison in our rivers, or avoid paying taxes like everybody else has to do. Well, we have a broader idea of freedom. We believe in the freedom to provide for your family if you're willing to work hard. The freedom to breathe clean air and drink clean water and send your kids to school without worrying if they'll come home. We believe that true freedom gives each of us the right to make decisions about our own life, how we worship, what our family looks like, how many kids we have, who we marry. And we believe that freedom requires us to recognize that other people have the freedom to make choices that are different than ours. That's okay. That's the America Kamala Harris and Tim Walz believe in. An America where we, the people, includes everyone. Because that's the only way this American experiment works. And despite what our politics might suggest, I think most Americans understand that. Democracy isn't just a bunch of abstract principles and dusty laws in some book somewhere. It's the values we live by. It's the way we treat each other, including those who don't look like us, or pray like us, or see the world exactly like we do. That sense of mutual respect has to be part of our message. Our politics have become so polarized these days that all of us across the political spectrum seem so quick to assume the worst in others, unless they agree with us on every single issue. We start thinking that the only way to win is to scold and shame and out-yell the other side. And after a while, regular folks just tune out, or they don't bother to vote. Now, that approach may work for the politicians who just want attention and thrive on division. But it won't work for us. To make progress on the things we care about, the things that really affect people's lives, we need to remember that we've all got our blind spots and contradictions and prejudices, and that if we want to win over those who aren't yet ready to support our candidates, we need to listen to their concerns and maybe learn something in the process. After all, if a parent or grandparent occasionally says something that makes us cringe, we don't automatically assume they're bad people. We recognize that the world is moving fast, that they need time and maybe a little encouragement to catch up. Our fellow citizens deserve the same grace we hope they'll extend to us. That's how we can build a true democratic majority, one that can get things done. And by the way, that does not just matter to the people in this country. The rest of the world is watching to see if we can actually pull this off. No nation, no society has ever tried to build a democracy as big and as diverse as ours before. One that includes people that over decades have come from every corner of the globe. One where our allegiances and our community are defined not by race or blood, but by a common creed. And that's why when we uphold our values, the world's a little brighter. When we don't, the world's a little dimmer. And dictators and autocrats feel emboldened. And over time, we become less safe. We shouldn't be the world's policemen, and we can't eradicate every cruelty and injustice in the world. But America can be and must be a force for good. Discouraging conflict, fighting disease, promoting human rights, protecting the planet from climate change, defending freedom, brokering peace. That's what Kamala Harris believes, and so do most Americans. Now, I know these ideas can feel pretty naive right now. We live in a time of such confusion and rancor, with a culture that puts a premium on things that don't last. Money, fame, status, likes. We chase the approval of strangers on our phones. We build all manner of walls and fences around ourselves, and then we wonder why we feel so alone. We don't trust each other as much because we don't take the time to know each other. And in that space between us, politicians and algorithms teach us to caricature each other, and troll each other, and fear each other. But here's the good news, Chicago. All across America, in big cities and small towns, away from all the noise, the ties that bind us together are still there. We still coach Little League and look out for our elderly neighbors. We still feed the hungry in churches and mosques and synagogues and temples. We share the same pride when our Olympic athletes compete for the gold. Because the vast majority of us do not want to live in a country that's bitter and divided. We want something better. We want to be better. And the joy and the excitement that we're seeing around this campaign tells us we're not alone. You know, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this these past few months because, as Michelle mentioned, this summer we lost her mom, Ms. Marion Robinson. And I don't know that anybody has ever loved their mother-in-law any more than I love mine. Mostly it's because she was funny and wise and the least pretentious person I knew. That, and she always defended me with Michelle when I messed up. I'd hide behind her. But I also think one of the reasons Mary and I became so close was she reminded me of my grandmother, the woman who helped raise me as a child. And on the surface, the two of them did not have a lot in common. One was a black woman from right here, south side of Chicago, right down the way. Went to Englewood High School. The other was a little old white lady born in a tiny town called Peru, Kansas. Now, I know there aren't that many people from Peru. And yet they shared a basic outlook on life. They were strong, smart, resourceful women, full of common sense, who, regardless of the barriers they encountered, and women growing up in the 40s and 50s and 60s, they encountered barriers, they still went about their business without fuss or complaint and provided an unshakable foundation of love for their children and their grandchildren. In that sense, they both represented an entire generation of working people who, through war and depression, discrimination and limited opportunity, helped build this country. A lot of them toiled every day at jobs that were often too small for them and didn't pay a lot. They willingly went without just to keep a roof over the family's heads, just to give their children something better. But they knew what was true. They knew what mattered. Things like honesty and integrity, kindness and hard work. They weren't impressed with braggarts or bullies. They didn't think putting other people down lifted you up or made you strong. They didn't spend a lot of time obsessing about what they didn't have. Instead, they appreciated what they did. They found pleasure in simple things, a card game with friends, a good meal, and laughter around the kitchen table, helping others, and most of all, seeing their children do things and go places that they would have never imagined for themselves. Whether you are a Democrat or a Republican or somewhere in between, we have all had people like that in our lives. People like Kamala's parents, who crossed oceans because they believed in the promise of America. People like Tim's parents, who taught him about the importance of service. Good, hard-working people who weren't famous or powerful, but who managed in countless ways to leave this country just a little bit better than they found it. As much as any policy or program, I believe that's what we yearn for. A return to an America where we work together and look out for each other. A restoration of what Lincoln called, on the eve of civil war, our bonds of affection. An America that taps what he called the better angels of our nature. That is what this election is about. And I believe that's why if we each do our part over the next 77 days, if we knock on doors, if we make phone calls, if we talk to our friends, if we listen to our neighbors, if we work like we've never worked before, if we hold firm to our convictions, we will elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States and Tim Walz as the next vice president of the United States. We will elect leaders up and down the ballot who will fight for the hopeful, forward-looking America we all believe in, and together we too will build a country that is more secure and more just, more equal and more free. So let's get to work. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
All right, so that was the Obama speech, and I mean, shit, the man hasn't lost a step when it comes to campaigning. Holy shit. Love him or hate him, you got to admit the man knows how to give a speech. Holy shit. Off topic, but Yellow Flash joined Rippison with his own comic. Here's the thing about Yellow Flash. Yellow Flash is 100% wrong on the Rippaverse, but he's 100% right on the Nick Rekieta situation. That's what's wild about Yellow Flash. All right, so the next one we're going to listen to and is actually going to be Michelle Obama. There she is. Yeah, so we're going to watch Michelle Obama, and then we're going to watch the Tim Walz speech, and then we'll end it off with Kamala. So here we go.
Please welcome former First Lady Michelle Obama.
So let me say this real quick. If Michelle Obama wanted to be president, she would become president in a heartbeat. I mean, just being completely honest. If Michelle Obama wanted to be president, she could become president in a heartbeat. She doesn't want to be president. I don't think she wants to run for office, period. But she could. Because if she really wanted to, she could. Oh no, she made your school lunch nutritious instead of a bunch of fucking junk food. Yeah, get over it. Most kids don't like to eat their vegetables either, but you know what? A responsible parent makes them eat their vegetables because it's what's best for them.
Okay. We got a big night ahead. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. Hey. Hello, Chicago. Yeah. All right. Something wonderfully magical is in the air, isn't it? Yeah. You know, we're feeling it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. a familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. You know what I'm talking about. It's the contagious power of hope. The anticipation, the energy, the exhilaration of once again being on the cusp of a brighter day. The chance to vanquish the demons of fear, division, and hate that have consumed us and continue pursuing the unfinished promise of this great nation, the dream that our parents and grandparents fought and died and sacrificed for. America, hope is making a comeback. But to be honest, I am realizing that until recently, I have mourned the dimming of that hope. And maybe you've experienced the same feelings. Is that deep pit in my stomach, a palpable sense of dread about the future? And for me, that mourning has also been mixed with my own personal grief. The last time I was here in my hometown was to memorialize my mother, the woman who showed me the meaning of hard work and humility and decency, the woman who set my moral compass high and showed me the power of my own voice. Folks, I still feel her loss so profoundly. I wasn't even sure if I'd be steady enough to stand before you tonight, but my heart compelled me to be here because of the sense of duty that I feel to honor her memory and to remind us all not to squander the sacrifices our elders made to give us a better future. You see, my mom, in her steady, quiet way, lived out that striving sense of hope every single day of her life. She believed that all children, all people have value, that anyone can succeed if given the opportunity. She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed. They understood that it wasn't enough for their kids to thrive if everyone else around us was drowning. So my mother volunteered at the local school. She always looked out for the other kids on the block. She was glad to do the thankless, unglamorous work that for generations has strengthened the fabric of this nation. The belief that if you do unto others, if you love thy neighbor, if you work and scrape and sacrifice, it will pay off. If not for you, then maybe for your children or your grandchildren. You see, those values have been passed on through family farms and factory towns, through tree-lined streets and crowded tenements, through prayer groups and National Guard units and social studies classrooms. Those were the values my mother poured into me until her very last breath. Kamala Harris and I built our lives on those same foundational values. Even though our mothers grew up an ocean apart, they shared the same belief in the promise of this country. That's why her mother moved here from India at 19. It's why she taught Kamala about justice, about the obligation to lift others up, about our responsibility to give more than we take. She'd often tell her daughter, don't sit around and complain about things, do something. So, with that voice in her head, Kamala went out and she worked hard in school, graduating from an HBCU, earning her law degree at a state school. And then she went on to work for the people, fighting to hold lawbreakers accountable, strengthening the rule of law, fighting to get folks better wages, cheaper prescription drugs, a good education, decent health care, child care, elder care. From a middle-class household, Kamala worked her way up to become Vice President of the United States of America. My girl, Kamala Harris, is more than ready for this moment. She is one of the most qualified people ever to seek the office of the presidency.
Why do all these politicians and politician-adjacent people tell the same stories that their parents were such great people? Because they love their fucking parents? I mean, what kind of question is that, dude? Like, come on.
And she is one of the most dignified. A tribute to her mother, to my mother, and to your mother, too. The embodiment of the stories we tell ourselves about this country. Her story is your story. It's my story. It's the story of the vast majority of Americans trying to build a better life. Look, Kamala knows, like we do, that regardless of where you come from, what you look like, who you love, how you worship, or what's in your bank account, we all deserve the opportunity to build a decent life. All of our contributions deserve to be accepted and valued. Because no one has a monopoly on what it means to be an American. No one. Kamala has shown her allegiance to this nation, not by spewing anger and bitterness, but by living a life of service and always pushing the doors of opportunity open to others. She understands that most of us will never be afforded the grace of failing forward. We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth. If we bankrupt a business or choke in a crisis, we don't get a second, third, or fourth chance. If things don't go our way, we don't have the luxury of whining or cheating others to get further ahead. No. We don't get to change the rules so we always win. If we see a mountain in front of us, we don't expect there to be an escalator waiting to take us to the top. No. We put our heads down. We get to work. In America, we do something. And throughout her entire life, that's what we've seen from Kamala Harris. The steel of her spine, the steadiness of her upbringing, the honesty of her example, and yes, the joy of her laughter and her light. It couldn't be more obvious. Of the two major candidates in this race, only Kamala Harris truly understands the unseen labor and unwavering commitment that has always made America great. Now, unfortunately, we know what comes next. We know folks are going to do everything they can to distort her truth. My husband and I sadly know a little something about this. For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hardworking, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black. Who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs? Look, it's his same old con. His same old con. Doubling down on ugly, misogynistic, racist lies as a substitute for real ideas and solutions that will actually make people's lives better. Look, because cutting our health care, taking away our freedom to control our bodies, the freedom to become a mother through IVF like I did, those things are not going to improve the health outcomes of our wives, mothers, and daughters. Shutting down the Department of Education, banning our books, none of that will prepare our kids for the future. Demonizing our children for being who they are and loving who they love, look, that doesn't make anybody's life better. Instead, it only makes us small. And let me tell you this, going small is never the answer. Going small is the opposite of what we teach our kids. Going small is petty, it's unhealthy, and quite frankly, it's unpresidential. So, why would any of us accept this from anyone seeking our highest office? Why would we normalize that type of backward leadership? Doing so only demeans and cheapens our politics. It only serves to further discourage good, big-hearted people from wanting to get involved at all. America, our parents taught us better than that, and we deserve so much better than that. That's why we must do everything in our power to elect two of those good, big-hearted people. There is no other choice than Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. No other choice. But as we embrace this renewed sense of hope, let us not forget the despair we have felt. Let us not forget what we are up against. Yes, Kamala and Tim are doing great now. We're loving it. They're packing arenas across the country. Folks are energized. We are feeling good. But remember, there are still so many people who are desperate for a different outcome, who are ready to question and criticize every move Kamala makes, who are eager to spread those lies, who don't want to vote for a woman, who will continue to prioritize building their wealth over ensuring that everyone has enough. So no matter how good we feel tonight or tomorrow or the next day, this is going to be an uphill battle. So folks, we cannot be our own worst enemies. No. See, because the minute something goes wrong, The minute a lie takes hold, folks, we cannot start wringing our hands. We cannot get a Goldilocks complex about whether everything is just right. And we cannot indulge our anxieties about whether this country will elect someone like Kamala instead of doing everything we can to get someone like Kamala elected. Kamala and Tim, they have lived amazing lives. And I am confident that they will lead with compassion, inclusion, and grace. But they are still only human. They are not perfect. And like all of us, they will make mistakes. But luckily, y'all, this is not just on them. No, this is up to us, all of us, to be the solution that we seek. It's up to all of us to be the antidote to the darkness and division. Look, I don't care how you identify politically, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, or none of the above. This is our time to stand up for what we know in our hearts is right. To stand up, not just for our basic freedoms, but for decency and humanity, for basic respect, dignity, and empathy, for the values at the very foundation of this democracy. It's up to us to remember what Kamala's mother told her. Don't just sit around and complain, do something. So if they lie about her, and they will, we've got to do something. If we see a bad poll, and we will, we got to put down that phone and do something. If we start feeling tired, if we start feeling that dread creeping back in, we got to pick ourselves up, throw water on our face, and what? We only have 2.5 months, y'all, to get this done. Only 11 weeks to make sure every single person we know is registered and has a voting plan. So we cannot afford for anyone America to sit on their hands and wait to be called. Don't complain if no one from the campaign has specifically reached out to you to ask you for your support. There is simply no time for that kind of foolishness. You know what you need to do. So consider this to be your official ask. Michelle Obama is asking you, no, I'm telling y'all to do something. Because you all, this election is going to be close. In some states, just a handful, listen to me, a handful of votes in every precinct could decide the winner. So we need to vote in numbers that erase any doubt. We need to overwhelm any effort to suppress us. Our fate is in our hands. In 77 days, we have the power to turn our country away from the fear, division, and smallness of the past. We have the power to marry our hope with our action. We have the power to pay forward the love, sweat, and sacrifice of our mothers and fathers and all those who came before us. We did it before, y'all, and we sure can do it again. Let us work like our lives depend on it. And let us keep moving our country forward and go higher, yes, always higher than we've ever gone before as we elect the next president and vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Thank you all. God bless. Now, before I go, I have one more job tonight. Yeah, one more job.
All right, this is just her introducing Obama, but holy shit. I mean, the Obamas, love them or hate them, you cannot deny they are excellent speakers. And like I said, if Michelle Obama had decided to run for president, she would have been president. She could run for any office she wants, as long as it's if it's in a blue state. Like if she ran for Senate in Illinois, she ran for Senate in Hawaii, she'd get it in a heartbeat. There's no doubt in my mind. She would get it. The fact that she doesn't, she just doesn't want it. She just doesn't want it. But she could easily get it. She could easily get it. All right, so we're gonna listen to Tim Walz, and we're gonna see his acceptance speech, and then we'll watch Kamala's speech, and we'll call it a night. That'll do it for the recap. See, where is Walz? Where's his speech? Walls, where you at? Holy shit, where's his speech? Am I missing? I'm just going over it. It's... Yo, where the fuck is his speech? Hold up, there's Kamala. See, it'd be on the day 3. Day 3, day 3, day 3, day 3, day 3. Where the fuck is it? Oh, there it is. Holy shit. Okay, there it is. There it is. There it is. All right, so here we go. Tim Walz. Again, I was one of the first people who said that I thought it was going to, that there was a good chance it was going to be Walz. And my predictions have been pretty on point for this election so far. So here we go.
Democratic nominee for Vice President, Governor Tim Walz.
Do I think the Obama presidency was better than Trump's? Obama killed bin Laden. Obama got the Affordable Health Care Act passed, which is a far cry from what we really need to solve the problem of healthcare in this country. But at the same time, it's not entirely his fault, because we could have at least had a public option if it wasn't for... No, shut the... Failure. See, this is the thing. You're such a fucking child. You're a fucking child. It's called being contemplative. You think that everybody's supposed to be brash and give a quick answer like Trump. Like Trump. Do you ever fucking think? Do you contemplate things? Do you have any sort of introspective? I mean, it's such like, there's hesitation, hard. Like, you're such a fucking child. Like, stop it. Stop it. If you're really fucking 26, act like it. Don't act like you're fucking 6. My God. Fucking dumbass, stupid ass fucking Republicans, man. All right. As I was trying to fucking say, all right, you know what? All right, you know what? You know what? Fuck you, failure. Hold up. There you go. How do you like that, dumbass? How's that for hesitation, bitch? No. I'm serious. Like, you're not going to come in here and act like a fucking child. Fuck pussy. I'm not a Republican. See, now you're resorting to fucking insults. You want to insult me? I'll insult you back, and then I'll time you out. Grow the fuck up. You want to come in here? You give a fucking intellectual argument. That's how this shit works. If you can't do that, and if you can't respect contemplative and intellectual thinking, don't be here. That's how this shit works. I'm not dealing with a bunch of fucking dumbasses. Call me a dumbass. I'll call you a dumbass. All right. As I was trying to fucking answer the fucking question, Obama I don't think went far enough in the direction I would have liked him to. We could have had a public option on healthcare if it wasn't for Joe Lieberman. So that's not really Obama's fault. But do I, like, if you're asking, I mean, really what you're asking is, would I rather have Obama than Trump? The answer is hell yes. Is Obama perfect? No. Did Obama make a lot of mistakes? Yes. Yes. But would I take Obama over Trump? Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, and failure, you're banned for 24 hours. You can come back after 24 hours. But I'm not dealing with the fucking insults. I've banned people for that before. I'm not dealing with it. It's not going to fucking happen. Because here's the thing. If you're going to insult me, I'm going to insult you back. And if you're the one that starts the insults, that means you don't have a real argument. And don't be surprised if you get insults back. Because I'm not going to put up with it. God, fucking dumbass Republicans. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you, first of all, to Vice President Harris. Thanks for putting your trust in me and for inviting me to be part of this incredible campaign. And a thank you to President Joe Biden for 4 years of strong, historic leadership. It's the honor of my life to accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States. We're all here tonight for one beautiful, simple reason. We love this country. So thank you to all of you here in Chicago and all of you watching at home tonight. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your determination. And most of all, thank you for bringing the joy to this fight. Now, I grew up in Butte, Nebraska, a town of 400 people. I had 24 kids in my high school class, and none of them went to Yale. But I'll tell you what, growing up in a small town like that, you learn how to take care of each other. That family down the road, they may not think like you do. They may not pray like you do. They may not love like you do, but they're your neighbors. And you look out for them, and they look out for you. Everybody belongs, and everybody has a responsibility to contribute. For me, it was serving in the Army National Guard. I joined up 2 days after my 17th birthday, and I proudly wore our nation's uniform for 24 years. My dad, a Korean War-era Army veteran, died of lung cancer a couple years later. He left behind a mountain of medical debt. Thank God for Social Security survivor benefits. And thank God for the GI Bill that allowed my dad and me to go to college, and millions of other Americans. Eventually, like the rest of my family, I fell in love with teaching. Three out of 4 of us married teachers. I wound up teaching social studies and coaching football at Mankato West High School. Go Scarlets! We ran a 44 defense. We played through to the whistle on every single play, and we even won a state championship. Never closed the yearbook, people. But it was those players and my students who inspired me to run for Congress. They saw in me what I had hoped to instill in them, a commitment to the common good, an understanding that we're all in this together, and the belief that a single person can make a real difference for their neighbors. So there I was, a 40-something high school teacher with little kids, 0 political experience, and no money, running in a deep red district. But you know what? Never underestimate a public school teacher. Never.
I represented my neighbors in Congress for 12 years, and I learned an awful lot. I learned how to work across the aisle on issues like growing the rural economies and taking care of veterans. And I learned how to compromise without compromising my values. Then I came back to serve as governor, and we got right to work, making a difference in our neighbors' lives. We cut taxes for the middle class. We passed paid family and medical leave. We invested in fighting crime and affordable housing. We cut the cost of prescription drugs and helped people escape the kind of medical debt that nearly sank my family. And we made sure that every kid in our state gets breakfast and lunch every day. So while other states were banning books from their schools, we were banishing hunger from ours.
That right there is
We
a
also
great
protected
fucking line.
reproductive freedom.
That's a
because in
great
Minnesota,
fucking line
we
right
respect
there.
our neighbors and the personal choices they make. And even if we wouldn't make those same choices for ourselves, we've got a golden rule. Mind your own damn business. And that includes IVF and fertility treatments. And this is personal for Gwen and I. If you've never experienced the hell that is infertility, I guarantee you know somebody who has. And I can remember praying each night for a phone call, the pit in your stomach when the phone would ring, and the absolute agony when we heard the treatments hadn't worked. It took Gwen and I years, but we had access to fertility treatments. And when our daughter was born, we named her Hope. Hope, Gus, and Gwen, you are my entire world, and I love you. I'm letting you in on how we started a family because this is a big part.
So I want to pause right there, and this really tells you a lot about the people that support Donald Trump. In that moment, you can't hear it, but in that moment, his son says, "That's my dad." He's getting emotional. He's proud of his father. And then you have these fucktards on Fox News. You have these fucktards in the right-wing media saying that he's fucking weak, that he's pathetic, making fun of this kid. Because what? He loves his dad? Because he's willing to show some fucking emotion? When people talk about toxic masculinity, that's it. Right there. That's what the fuck it is. It's this old school mentality of, if you're a boy, you can never cry. If you're a boy, you can never get emotional. So what, you want every single guy in the fucking planet to be a fucking hard-ass, cruel, cold, evil individual who's just cruel and callous? Is that what you want? I mean, that's a real fucking low blow to attack that kid on that. Back when I was in school, we had a name for people like that. It was called a bully. And you know how you deal with a bully? You knock that fucker down. You knock them down on their ass. And that's exactly what's about to happen in November. I'm so sick of the cruelty coming from the other side. I'm sick of it. That type of thinking, that type of mentality, that type of worldview, people are sick of it. It's going to die. It won't be in this election, won't be in the next election, but in a generation, that type of mentality is gone. It's dead. And thank God. All right, back to the fucking speech.
About what this election is about. Freedom. When Republicans use the word freedom, they mean that the government should be free to invade your doctor's office. Corporations, free to pollute your air and water. And banks, free to take advantage of customers. But when we Democrats talk about freedom, we mean the freedom to make a better life for yourself and the people that you love. Freedom to make your own healthcare decisions. And yeah, your kids' freedom to go to school without worrying about being shot dead in the hall. Look, I know guns. I'm a veteran. I'm a hunter. And I was a better shot than most Republicans in Congress, and I got the trophies to prove it. But I'm also a dad. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I also believe our first responsibility is to keep our kids safe. That's what this is all about. the responsibility we have to our kids, to each other, and to the future that we're building together, in which everyone is free to build the kind of life they want. But not everyone has that same sense of responsibility. Some folks just don't understand what it takes to be a good neighbor. Take Donald Trump and J.D. Vance.
Yo.
That was good.
What's up, man?
No, nothing. I didn't watch this whole entire DNC shit. This is a clown show, man.
How is it a clown show?
I'm talking about the Democratic Party. That shit with Kamala Harris. 'Cause I just popped up in the room.
Okay, but I mean, did you watch all the speeches? I mean,
I only watched Kamala's speech. Because this is the Democratic one, right?
Yeah.
So wait, are you saying this? Are you saying that there's things that's happening? Because mind you, I only came in like two or three minutes. I only watched a little bit of it. What's going on? So the reason why I'm calling it bad, the reason why I'm saying is trash, is because of what I saw with Kamala. Because she literally said nothing about what she was going to do.
No, and like we'll get to her speech in a second, but
okay.
Look, I think in terms like when you look at the Democratic National Convention, you look at the ratings and stuff. I mean, the ratings for the Democratic National Convention blew the Republican National Convention out of the water. I mean, this is the thing that I don't think people understand, but there's something happening here. I mean, the crowds that she's getting. I mean, I'm not saying this is Obama level, but it's approaching that.
I don't know if that's a good thing now.
I mean, and like that. I mean, look, here's the thing. At the end of the day, I think the Republican Party has just become a cult towards Trump. And I just and I just even if somebody's a Republican, I think they should want the Republicans to lose in order for the Republicans to change, because the Republicans right now are going down a road that is just it's basically idol worship, and Trump's the idol. And the Republican Party needs a wake-up call.
Well, no, I mean, I definitely do. I definitely do believe that, both parties are, not in the best interest of the American population. But, at least as far as I've watched with Kamala Harris, the people that turned out for her, man, like I don't see any heterosexual regular person that's up in there that's anything positive to say. Now, now, mind you, I didn't see any of these other interviews, but I don't know, man. Like I think that there's a lot of promotion going on with her that's very contrived, in my opinion. But I do get your point about the Republican Party. I mean, as far as them being a cult and being having the mindset that they have.
Yeah. So let's continue with Walsh's speech.
Their Project 2025 will make things much, much harder for people who are just trying to live their lives. They spent a lot of time pretending they know nothing about this. But look, I coached high school football long enough to know, and trust me on this, when somebody takes the time to draw up a playbook, they're going to use it. And we know if these guys get back in the White House, they'll start jacking up the costs on the middle class, they'll repeal the Affordable Care Act, they'll gut Social Security and Medicare, and they will ban abortion across this country with or without Congress. Here's the thing. It's an agenda nobody asked for. It's an agenda that serves nobody except the richest and the most extreme amongst us. And it's an agenda that does nothing for our neighbors in need. Is it weird? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's also wrong, and it's dangerous. It's not just me saying so. It's Trump's own people. They were with him for 4 years. They're warning us that the next 4 years will be much, much worse. You know, when I was teaching every year, we'd elect a student body president. And you know what? Those teenagers could teach Donald Trump a hell of a lot about what a leader is. Leaders don't spend all day insulting people and blaming others. Leaders do the work. So I don't know about you. I'm ready to turn the page on these guys. So go ahead. Say it with me. We're not going back. We've got something better to offer the American people. It starts with our candidate, Kamala Harris. From her first day as a prosecutor, as a district attorney, as an attorney general, as a United States senator, and then our vice president, she's fought on the side of the American people. She's taken on the predators and fraudsters. She's taken down the transnational gangs, and she stood up to powerful corporate interests. She has never hesitated to reach across that aisle if it meant improving your lives. And she's always done it with energy, with passion, and with joy. Folks, we've got a chance to make Kamala Harris the next president of the United States. But I think we owe it to the American people to tell them exactly what she'd do as president before we ask them for their votes. So here, this is the part, clip and save it and send it to your undecided relatives so they know. If you're a middle-class family or a family trying to get into the middle class, Kamala Harris is going to cut your taxes. If you're getting squeezed by prescription drug prices, Kamala Harris is going to take on Big Pharma. If you're hoping to buy a home, Kamala Harris is going to help make it more affordable. And no matter who you are, Kamala Harris is going to stand up and fight for your freedom to live the life that you want to lead. Because that's what we want for ourselves, and it's what we want for our neighbors. You know, you might not know it, but I haven't given a lot of big speeches like this. But I have given a lot of pep talks. So let me finish with this, team. It's the fourth quarter. We're down a field goal, but we're on offense and we've got the ball. We're driving down the field. And boy, do we have the right team. Kamala Harris is tough. Kamala Harris is experienced, and Kamala Harris is ready. Our job for everyone watching is to get in the trenches and do the blocking and tackling. 1 inch at a time, 1 yard at a time, 1 phone call at a time, 1 door knock at a time, 1 $5 donation at a time. Look, we got 76 days. That's nothing. There'll be time to sleep when you're dead. We're going to leave it on the field. That's how we'll keep moving forward. That's how we'll turn the page on Donald Trump. That's how we'll build a country where workers come first. Healthcare and housing are human rights. And the government stays the hell out of your bedroom. That's how we make America a place where no child is left hungry, where no community is left behind, where nobody gets told they don't belong. That's how we're gonna fight. And as the next president of the United States always says, when we fight, when we fight, when we fight, thank you. God bless.
So yeah, I mean, love him or hate him, like you got, I mean, he knows how to speak to the average person. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I know people are saying Ben Shapiro, Mark Kelly and Ben Shapiro are too elitist. They're too corporatists. And they would not be able to speak to the average person like this man just did. Tim Walz does not come from privilege. He comes from the middle class. And here he is. I mean, it's an authentic dude. I don't know how you can deny that. All right. So now we're going to go to the Kamala speech, and then we're going to call it a night. So here we go.
Democratic nominee for president, Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris.
evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Okay, we gotta get to some business. We gotta get to some business. Okay, thank you all. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, thank you, please, thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Okay, let's get to business. Let's get to business. All right. So let me start by thanking my most incredible husband, Doug, for being an incredible partner to me, an incredible father to Cole and Ella, and happy anniversary, Dougie. I love you so very much. To our President Joe Biden, when I think about the path that we have traveled together, Joe, I am filled with gratitude. Your record is extraordinary, as history will show, and your character is inspiring, and Doug and I love you and Jill and are forever thankful to you both. And to Coach Tim Walz, you are going to be an incredible vice president. And to the delegates and everyone who has put your faith in our campaign, your support is humbling. So, America, the path that led me here in recent weeks was no doubt unexpected. But I'm no stranger to unlikely journeys. So, my mother, our mother, Shamala Harris, had one of her own. And I miss her every day, and especially right now. And I know she's looking down smiling. I know that. So my mother was 19 when she crossed the world alone, traveling from India to California with an unshakable dream to be the scientist who would cure breast cancer. When she finished school, she was supposed to return home to a traditional arranged marriage. But as fate would have it, she met my father, Donald Harris, a student from Jamaica. They fell in love and got married, and that act of self-determination made my sister Maya and me. Growing up, we moved a lot. I will always remember that big Mayflower truck packed with all our belongings, ready to go to Illinois, to Wisconsin, and wherever our parents' jobs took us. My early memories of our parents together are very joyful ones. A home filled with laughter and music, Aretha, Coltrane, and Miles. At the park, my mother would say, "Stay close." But my father would say, as he smiled, "Run, Kamala, run. Don't be afraid. Don't let anything stop you." From my earliest years, he taught me to be fearless. But the harmony between my parents did not last. When I was in elementary school, they split up. And it was mostly my mother who raised us. Before she could finally afford to buy a home, she rented a small apartment in the East Bay. In the Bay, you either live in the hills or the flatlands. We lived in the flats. A beautiful working-class neighborhood of firefighters, nurses, and construction workers, all who tended their lawns with pride. My mother, she worked long hours, and like many working parents, she leaned on a trusted circle to help raise us. Mrs. Shelton, who ran the daycare below us and became a second mother. Uncle Sherman, Aunt Mary, Uncle Freddie, Auntie Chris. None of them family by blood, and all of them family by love. Family who taught us how to make gumbo, how to play chess, and sometimes even let us win. Family who loved us, believed in us, and told us we could be anything and do anything. They instilled in us the values they personified: community, faith, and the importance of treating others as you would want to be treated, with kindness, respect, and compassion. My mother was a brilliant, 5-foot-tall, brown woman with an accent. And as the eldest child, I saw how the world would sometimes treat her. But my mother never lost her cool. She was tough, courageous, a trailblazer in the fight for women's health, and she taught Maya and me a lesson that Michelle mentioned the other night. She taught us to never complain about injustice, but do something about it. Do something about it. That was my mother. And she taught us, and she also taught us, and never do anything half-assed. And that is a direct quote. A direct quote. I grew up immersed in the ideals of the civil rights movement. My parents had met at a civil rights gathering, and they made sure that we learned about civil rights leaders, including the lawyers like Thurgood Marshall and Constance Baker Motley, those who battled in the courtroom to make real the promise of America. So at a young age, I decided I wanted to do that work. I wanted to be a lawyer. And when it came time to choose the type of law I would pursue, I reflected on a pivotal moment in my life. You see, when I was in high school, I started to notice something about my best friend, Wanda. She was sad at school, and there were times she didn't want to go home. So one day I asked if everything was all right, and she confided in me that she was being sexually abused by her stepfather. And I immediately told her she had to come stay with us, and she did. This is one of the reasons I became a prosecutor, to protect people like Wanda, because I believe everyone has a right to safety, to dignity, and to justice. As a prosecutor, when I had a case, I charged it not in the name of the victim, but in the name of the people. For a simple reason. In our system of justice, a harm against any one of us is a harm against all of us. And I would often explain this to console survivors of crime, to remind them, no one should be made to fight alone. We are all in this together. And every day, in the courtroom, I stood proudly before a judge, and I said 5 words: Kamala Harris for the people. And to be clear, my entire career, I've only had one client, the people. And so, on behalf of the people, on behalf of every American, regardless of party, race, gender, or the language your grandmother speaks, on behalf of my mother and everyone who has ever set out on their own unlikely journey, on behalf of Americans like the people I grew up with, people who work hard, chase their dreams, and look out for one another, on behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
Right there's the big moment.
Election,
Right there's the big moment, ladies and gentlemen. There it is.
And with this election, our nation with this election has a precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward. Not as members of any one party or faction, but as Americans. And let me say, I know there are people of various political views watching tonight, and I want you to know, I promise to be a president for all Americans. You can always trust me to put country above party and self, to hold sacred America's fundamental principles, from the rule of law to free and fair elections to the peaceful transfer of power. I will be a president who unites us around our highest aspirations, a president who leads and listens, who is realistic, practical, and has common sense, and always fights for the American people. From the courthouse to the White House, that has been my life's work. As a young courtroom prosecutor in Oakland, California, I stood up for women and children against predators who abuse them. As Attorney General of California, I took on the big banks, delivered $20 billion for middle-class families who faced foreclosure, and helped pass a homeowner bill of rights, one of the first of its kind in the nation. I stood up for veterans and students being scammed by big for-profit colleges, for workers who are being cheated out of their wages, the wages they were due, for seniors facing elder abuse. I fought against the cartels who traffic in guns and drugs and human beings, who threaten the security of our border and the safety of our communities. And I will tell you, these fights were not easy, and neither were the elections that put me in those offices. We were underestimated at practically every turn, but we never gave up, because the future is always worth fighting for. And that's the fight we are in right now, a fight for America's future. Fellow Americans, this election is not only the most important of our lives, it is one of the most important in the life of our nation. In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. Consider not only the chaos and calamity when he was in office, but also the gravity of what has happened since he lost the last election. Donald Trump tried to throw away your votes. When he failed, he sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol, where they assaulted law enforcement officers. When politicians in his own party begged him to call off the mob and send help, he did the opposite. He fanned the flames. And now, for an entirely different set of crimes, he was found guilty of fraud by a jury of everyday Americans and separately found liable for committing sexual abuse. And consider what he intends to do if we give him power again. Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy. His explicit intent to deploy our active duty military against our own citizens. Consider the power he will have, especially after the United States Supreme Court just ruled that he would be immune from criminal prosecution. Just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails, and how he would use the immense powers of the presidency of the United States, not to improve your life, not to strengthen our national security, but to serve the only client he has ever had, himself. And we know what a second Trump term would look like. It's all laid out in Project 2025, written by his closest advisors.
What I'm talking about.
And its sum total is to pull our country back to the past.
See, this is the thing. I, honest to God, believe that Donald Trump cares only for himself. It's all about him. Even if you were to disagree with Kamala Harris on every single policy, at the end of the day, I don't think Kamala Harris is going to be an election denier if she loses. I don't think she's going to stand in the way of the peaceful transfer of power, which has occurred in this country since its very beginning. But Donald Trump did that shit, is still doing that shit. Why? Because he can't admit that he lost. It hurts his ego too much. He is putting his ego above every standard and tradition of this country that has made it the most powerful democracy in the history of mankind. And that, more than anything else about Donald Trump, is why I have to vote for anybody but Donald Trump. Because he put himself above the very Constitution and the very system that he swore to defend and protect. Donald Trump betrayed his oath. And this country and this system and this Constitution, it's bigger than one person. We don't have a king or a queen. And his disregard for all of that makes him dangerous. So that is why she's getting my vote and he's not. Even if I disagreed with her on every single policy, And I don't agree with her on everything. I don't agree with the Democrats on everything. I'm pro-life, for God's sakes. But I'd rather have her as president than him. Because he gives me the same vibes as the dude with the funny mustache from Germany.
But America, we are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back to when Donald Trump tried to cut Social Security and Medicare. We are not going back to when he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, when insurance companies could deny people with pre-existing conditions. We are not going to let him eliminate the Department of Education that funds our public schools. We are not going to let him end programs like Head Start that provide preschool and childcare for our children. America, we are not going back. And we are charting a new way forward to a future with a strong and growing middle class, because we know a strong middle class has always been critical to America's success, and building that middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency. And I'll tell you, this is personal for me. The middle class is where I come from. My mother kept a strict budget. We lived within our means, yet we wanted for little. And she expected us to make the most of the opportunities that were available to us and to be grateful for them. Because, as she taught us, opportunity is not available to everyone. That's why we will create what I call an opportunity economy where everyone has the chance to compete and a chance to succeed. Whether you live in a rural area, small town, or big city. And as president, I will bring together labor and workers and small business owners and entrepreneurs and American companies to create jobs, to grow our economy, and to lower the cost of everyday needs like healthcare and housing and groceries. We will provide access to capital for small business owners and entrepreneurs and founders. And we will end America's housing shortage and protect Social Security and Medicare. Now compare that to Donald Trump, because I think everyone here knows he doesn't actually fight for the middle class. He doesn't actually fight for the middle class. Instead, he fights for himself and his billionaire friends. And he will give them another round of tax breaks that will add up to $5 trillion to the national debt. And all the while, he intends to enact what in effect is a national sales tax, call it a Trump tax, that would raise prices on middle-class families by almost $4,000 a year. Well, instead of a Trump tax hike, we will pass a middle-class tax cut that will benefit more than 100 million Americans. Friends, I believe America cannot truly be prosperous unless Americans are fully able to make their own decisions about their own lives, especially on matters of heart and home. But tonight, in America, too many women are not able to make those decisions. And let's be clear about how we got here. Donald Trump handpicked members of the United States Supreme Court to take away reproductive freedom. And now he brags about it. In his words, quote, "I did it and I'm proud to have done it," end quote. Well, I'll tell you, over the past 2 years, I've traveled across our country, and women have told me their stories. Husbands and fathers have shared theirs. Stories of women miscarrying in a parking lot, developing sepsis, losing the ability to ever again have children, all because doctors are afraid they may go to jail for caring for their patients. Couples just trying to grow their family, cut off in the middle of IVF treatments. Children who have survived sexual assault, potentially being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. This is what's happening in our country because of Donald Trump. And understand, he is not done. As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. And get this, he plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions. Simply put, they are out of their minds. One must ask, why exactly is it that they don't trust women? Well, we trust women. We trust women. And when Congress passes a bill to restore reproductive freedom, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. In this election, many other fundamental freedoms are at stake. The freedom to live safe from gun violence in our schools, communities, and places of worship. The freedom to love who you love openly and with pride. The freedom to breathe clean air and drink clean water and live free from the pollution that fuels the climate crisis. And the freedom that unlocks all the others, the freedom to vote. With this election, we finally have the opportunity to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. And let me be clear. After decades in law enforcement, I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border. Last year, Joe and I brought together Democrats and conservative Republicans to write the strongest border bill in decades. The Border Patrol endorsed it. But Donald Trump believes a border deal would hurt his campaign. So he ordered his allies in Congress to kill the deal. Well, I refuse to play politics with our security, and here is my pledge to you. As president, I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed, and I will sign it into law. I know we can live up to our proud heritage as a nation of immigrants and reform our broken immigration system. We can create an earned pathway to citizenship and secure our border. And America, we must also be steadfast in advancing our security and values abroad. As Vice President, I have confronted threats to our security, negotiated with foreign leaders, strengthened our alliances, and engaged with our brave troops overseas. As Commander-in-Chief, I will ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world. And I will fulfill our sacred obligation to care for our troops and their families, and I will always honor and never disparage their service and their sacrifice.
So let me pause right there real quick. So here's the thing. What about this speech is so fucking radical? Like, this doesn't seem like extremely left-wing at all to me. What about this is so radical? If you consider this to be radical, maybe you ought to consider that she's not the radical one. Maybe you are. Because this is pretty, I would say, moderate to left-wing. It's not like leftist or extremely left or hardcore left. It's like moderate to left. I mean, I just don't get it. Like, now look, do I wish that in this speech she would give more policy details? Yes. I wish she would just come out and say, hey, look, I believe healthcare is a right. I believe everybody, I don't believe anybody should go bankrupt from having a medical emergency. Everybody should be able to get the care that they need. And we're going to find a way to do that. She doesn't even have to say we're going to do a single payer healthcare system. All she has to do is come out and say we're going to find a way to get there. Even if it's a public option. And a public option is not perfect, but it does give everybody health care. Because if you can't afford private health insurance, you can always default to the public option. Essentially what we have with education in this country. If you can't afford a private school, you can always default to public schools. That's essentially what it is. So it would give everybody health care, whether they decide to go the private route or the public option, which to me seems a lot more palatable to where the country is right now, even though I would prefer a single payer option. The public option is probably more likely given where the country is right now. So I'll take it. And, I wish she would give more details on how she's going to fix housing, because that's a very complicated issue. There's no one fix to that. It would be a myriad of things you would have to do. But I wish she would get more details on that. I wish she'd get more details on how she's going to make it where people can go to higher education. I wish she would give more details. But as far as like this being radical, there's nothing radical in this. I'm not seeing one thing that's radical so far. Honest to God, I really haven't. So I don't get it. Like Donald Trump going around saying, "Oh, communist Kamala." Like, guys, I don't think you know what communism is. I'm just gonna be real. Like, if you think this is radical and this is communist, you don't know what the fuck communism is. Like, you really don't know what you're talking about. This is so far from. This is so far from.
I will make.
And here's the things: the more left-wing economic policies that I want her to implement, I think there's a good chance those are going to be implemented anyways. But she might not be able to talk about them right now because she's trying to win over never Trumper Republicans, and she's trying to win over the independents. So after she gets elected, she may go full on as a left-wing economic populist, which is what I want her to be. She may go ahead and do that once she's in office. Awesome. Great. But she just may not be able to come out and say that right now because she has to win over independents and never Trumpers. And that's understandable. That's understandable. Again, I don't care what she has to do. Just get in fucking office. Just get this shit done. The ends justify the means. Just get this shit done. I care about the policies being passed and implemented. That's it. So if you have to be a little bit vague, if you have to watch how you word things, fuck it. Just get it done.
Make sure that we lead the world into the future on space and artificial intelligence, that America, not China, wins the competition for the 21st century, and that we strengthen, not abdicate, our global leadership. Trump, on the other hand, threatened to abandon NATO. He encouraged Putin to invade our allies, said Russia could, quote, do whatever the hell they want. 5 days before Russia attacked Ukraine, I met with President Zelensky to warn him about Russia's plan to invade. I helped mobilize a global response, over 50 countries, to defend against Putin's aggression. And as president, I will stand strong with Ukraine and our NATO allies. With respect to the war in Gaza, President Biden and I are working around the clock, because now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done. And let me be clear, I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7. Including unspeakable sexual violence and the massacre of young people at a music festival. At the same time, what has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating. So many innocent lives lost. Desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking. President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination. And know this, I will never hesitate to take whatever action is necessary to defend our forces and our interests against Iran and Iran-backed terrorists. I will not cozy up to tyrants and dictators like Kim Jong-un who are rooting for Trump. Because, you know, they know he is easy to manipulate with flattery and favors. They know Trump won't hold autocrats accountable because he wants to be an autocrat himself. And as president, I will never waver in defense of America's security and ideals, because in the enduring struggle between democracy and tyranny, I know where I stand and I know where the United States belongs. So fellow Americans, I love our country with all my heart. Everywhere I go, in everyone I meet, I see a nation that is ready to move forward, ready for the next step in the incredible journey that is America. I see an America where we hold fast to the fearless belief that built our nation and inspired the world, that here, in this country, anything is possible, that nothing is out of reach. An America where we care for one another, look out for one another, and recognize that we have so much more in common than what separates us. That none of us has to fail for all of us to succeed. And that in unity there is strength. You know, our opponents in this race are out there every day denigrating America, talking about how terrible everything is. Well, my mother had another lesson she used to teach. Never let anyone tell you who you are. You show them who you are. America, let us show each other and the world who we are and what we stand for. Freedom, opportunity, compassion, dignity, fairness, and endless possibilities. We are the heirs to the greatest democracy in the history of the world. And on behalf of our children and our grandchildren and all those who sacrificed so dearly for our freedom and liberty, we must be worthy of this moment. It is now our turn to do what generations before us have done, guided by optimism and faith, to fight for this country we love, to fight for the ideals we cherish, and to uphold the awesome responsibility that comes with the greatest privilege on earth, the privilege and pride of being an American.
Again, I'm going to pause it right there. 4 years ago, I was not impressed by Kamala Harris's speeches and her performances on stage at all. At all. I thought she was pretty sloppy 4 years ago. And I think that's one of the reasons why she didn't win the primary. Boy, what a difference 4 years has made. She has improved significantly. She is, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Michelle Obama is a damn good speaker. But wow, Kamala could really contend with her. I am really impressed by how put together and concise this speech is. Some of the moments that really hit the hardest. I mean, it's just like, it's those moments where you take a step back and you're like, damn. That's a damn good line. That's impressive. I thought she hit it out of the park, man. Like, she has I don't know what happened these last 4 years, but Kamala Harris has really come into her own as a national candidate. I mean, obviously she's won local elections in California. She's won the Senate seat in California. She, as a statewide candidate, she's obviously proven herself. But in the last 4 years, something has happened, and now we're seeing the fruits of it, whatever it is, to where she has really come into her own as a national candidate. And I look forward to the debate she's going to have with Donald Trump. Because I think she's going to wipe the floor with Donald Trump. I really think she's going to wipe the floor with Donald Trump. That is going to be a brutal debate. I think he's terrified of debating her. And I think that could shift the momentum. I mean, to be fair, she already has the momentum. She has the momentum. And I just got the fucking hiccup. Excuse me. She already has the momentum. But she may gain even more of it, a lot more of it, after the first debate she has with Donald Trump. Like, this upcoming debate between her and Trump could be as damaging to his campaign as what the Biden-Trump debate was to the Biden campaign. I think Donald Trump should be afraid. I really think he should, because this is one hell of a speech. Let's continue.
So let's get out there. Let's fight for it. Let's get out there. Let's vote for it. And together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. Thank you. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all.
All right, so I need to pause that because I don't want to get copyright strike. But, yo, listen. I don't know how you can't be impressed by that. Even if you don't agree with her, even if you're not voting with her, that was an impressive speech. And if she's that good in this speech, imagine how she's going to be when she debates Donald Trump. I think she's going to wipe the floor with him. I really do. I really do. But that's going to wrap it up for tonight. That's pretty much my DNC recap. I'm guessing this is Failure's alternate account. Excuse me, folks. I've got the hiccups. I guess this is alternate account. You literally called me a dumbass first, and I have to vote Republican to be a Republican. I never voted Republican. Why are you defending Trump so much? Like, I don't get it, man. It's like, it just, to me, it comes off as like, well, I'm not a Republican because I never voted Republican. I'm going to be one of those weird outliers. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, whatever, man. Like, I'm sorry. I can't take that shit seriously. Now, look, if I called you a dumbass first, I apologize. All right. I thought you posted the comment before I said that. But if I said it first, I apologize. But I am so sick and tired of dealing with people that are not intellectually, are not appreciative of intellectual arguments and contemplative thinking. When you're asking about presidential terms, when you're asking about different presidencies, that's not a yes or no question. That is something you have to think about. That's something where you really have to go back and you have to think about the entire time that person was in office, all the things they did, because every president in history has done things that I don't like. Every president in history has done things that I do like. And the question is, do the negatives outweigh the positives? And I had to think for a second, because here's the thing. My biggest problem with the Obama administration is that the dude didn't go far enough. My biggest problem with the Obama administration is that I think there was too much corporate influence in that administration, in that White House. But when I think about all the good things that came out of the Obama administration, yes. Would I prefer a single-payer healthcare system? Yes. Would I prefer a public option? Yes. But the Affordable Care Act was a step towards that. It was progress. And we could have had a public option if it wasn't for fucking Joe Lieberman fucking us over. So it's not really Obama's fault in that regard. Excuse me. I also have to consider the fact that some of the military decisions he made didn't really care for. Some of the bombings that happened didn't really care for. But the man did get Osama bin Laden. He did bring the he did bring the manhunt that began on 9/11 to a close. He did do that. No, dude, you said you said that me hesitating was all you needed to know. And the reason why it pissed me off is because I have grown up around people that when they look at people that are intellectuals, people that have gone to college, people that have studied, that have worked their ass off to become experts, to actually understand the field that they're in, and they will look at them and they will mock them for it. They attack intellectuals, they attack academia, they attack being educated. I have seen that my entire life. So when I hear people talk like that, to me it says they're not a very contemplative person. They're not a very intellectual person. They're only capable of reacting instead of actually thinking and considering all of the information. It's like, you got to answer right now. It's yes or no. It's like, no. I am going to weigh the question. I'm going to weigh all of the factors and aspects that go into my answer. And if you don't like that, too fucking bad. But I'm not just going to come out and say yes or no on a question that important. My answer is Obama's presidency was not perfect. There was some serious fuck ups. I think the Arab Spring was a big fuck up. I think we should have done more to sow the seeds of revolution in the Middle East. And I think a lot of these crazy ass regimes would have probably fallen at the time if we had. I wish he was more supportive to the groundswell in the Middle East during the Arab Spring. I wish he would have got more done on healthcare. But we did make progress as a country, which is not something I can say with Donald Trump. Donald Trump's presidency was all about him. So my problem with Obama, my main one, is that he didn't go far enough. But we still made some progress. I can't say that for Donald Trump. And because of that, would I rather have Obama or Donald Trump in office? Yes, I would rather have Obama in office over Donald Trump. You said that my hesitation was all you needed to know. There is a clear implication in that statement that you believed what I was going to say was different than the answer I actually gave. Or that hesitation in and of itself, or I'm sorry, you mistook hesitation for contemplation. You shouldn't make assumptions like that. That pisses me off. And one of the reasons why is because I've argued with people like this over and over, and I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. If someone can't have an intelligent, contemplative discussion, I just don't want to deal with them. I'm tired of people like that. And it's like a college professor told me one time. People like that, the scary thing is, people like that, they breed and they vote. And I'm like, oh shit. So I'm just over it. I'm over that. I'm so over it. Well, again, you shouldn't make fucking assumptions. Do you not know what they say about assuming? It makes it, if you assume, it makes an ass out of you and me. So don't make fucking assumptions. That's not a sign of intelligence. You realize that, right? You're not a psychic. You don't know what's going on in my head. You don't know what I'm going to say. So don't make assumptions. And when you do make assumptions, don't be surprised if I end up acting like an ass. Because again, when you assume, it makes an ass out of you and me. It's really not that fucking difficult. I know in the era of Trump, we're all used to everybody just saying whatever the fuck they want to without thinking. Let's all speak before we think. Let's all act before we think. I mean, good God Almighty. Let me ask you this. Do you plan to vote for Donald Trump in the next election? And did you vote for Donald Trump in the previous election? Because if you did, that makes you a Republican. Or if you plan to vote for Donald Trump, that makes you a Republican. I mean, the thing is with me is that I used to be a hardcore Republican. I wouldn't even call myself a Democrat. Like at this point, I'm an independent. I'm an independent. I would say, okay, then like this is what I don't understand. If you've never voted and you don't ever plan on voting, why give your fucking opinion on politics? As far as I'm concerned, if you don't vote, you don't get to talk about it. Or you know what? Everybody's got the right to free speech. Yes, I know. But if you don't vote, I don't think anyone should ever take your opinion on political issues seriously or listen to you. In other words, you have the right to free speech and to say whatever you want. But I also have the right to recommend that no one listens to you. Because you have the right to speak, you don't have the right to be heard. I just don't get it. I just like, you're a fucking American. Why don't you vote? It's just I don't know. I don't know, man. Like you're 26. You come off as a very cynical person with a very shallow worldview. And I don't know what made you like that, but I'm sorry. I don't know who hurt you, but I'm sorry. Yeah, that figures. Okay, so you listen to George Carlin. So that's why you're a cynic. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you're a cynic, then just get out of the way. Please. Just go stew in your corner somewhere and let the rest of us figure this shit out. Because some of us have shit to do. Some of us want to make the world a better place. I mean, Jesus Christ. All right. Anyways, the timeout I put you in on your other account, it'll be over in 24 hours. But yeah, it is what it is. All right. I apologize for calling you a dumbass, but at the same time, well, okay, see that's probably one reason why we disagree so much. I fucking hate nihilism. I think nihilism is one of the most detrimental, poisonous, toxic schools of philosophies that has ever emerged in human history. I despise nihilism. I reject nihilism on every level. I've never been a nihilist. When I first learned what nihilism was, I'm not going to lie to you. When I first learned what nihilism was, and when I learned about the people that came up with nihilism, I felt fucking sick to my stomach. Like, I could not believe that there was people out there that actually thought that way. Like, like on a spiritual level, it's like my soul wanted to throw up. I hate nihilism because nihilism is death. Anyways, that's going to do it for this stream. I will be streaming tomorrow night, same time, 10 p.m. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about Nick Rekieta. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about Nick Rekieta because there has been some updates. Nick Rekieta went to court this week, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. I don't care about the dumbass thing. Just don't call me a Republican. I just don't get it, dude. Like, pick something. Like, what the fuck do I call you? Are you a libertarian? Like, come on, pick something. You got to be something. Are you an independent? I mean, just state it. What the fuck are you? Oh, I don't get it. I don't know, man. Like, I don't get it. I just don't fucking get it. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the Nick Rekieta stream because we got some updates on that. He did go to court this week. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the cope surrounding Nick Rekieta. I want to talk about where things go from here because a lot of people are saying Nick Rekieta is going to get off. But that's but that's a philosophical stance. And again, I having read what I know about having read what I have about social Darwinism, I don't like there's aspects of it I really don't like. But the thing is, like, if you want to know what works, then why do you reject everything that is coming from a left-wing perspective? Because I've explained to you why things like universal health care actually work in other developed countries, but yet you want to ignore the evidence. So you don't really care. That tells me you don't really want to know what works. You just have a narrative in your head, and you're just trying to manipulate and twist the facts in order to fit the narrative in your head instead of changing the narrative in your head to fit the facts and the evidence. You're trying to make what is true externally, you're trying to warp it so that what you believe internally is true. And that's called being delusional. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the Nick Rekieta stream. Peace out.